All right, it is Monday, January 23rd, and it is time to go over the stuff that I got to watch in TVs and movies last week. Won't include the sports that I watched. I kind of watched the Bengals dismantle the Bills and a couple other things, but in terms of TV shows and movies, there was a little bit slower of a week. We had a couple new shows come out. We had a episode 2 of The Last of Us, and then I think a really underrated movie, Missing. So let's kind of go into here of what I watched this week. Now, obviously, we're coming off of episode 2 of Last of Us. I think everybody had 10 million viewers, at least in the first couple days, on the HBO Max and HBO proper channel. I think this is going, we're going to see how many people stick around for episode 2 and 3 like I did. I think it's going to be interesting to see how people feel about this episode. I'll go into my thoughts here below. The second thing we'll go over today is going to be Missing, a brand new kind of, it's a Sony movie, something that I think should be watched more than maybe it is. It was something I enjoyed. I'll go in more into my thoughts there. After that, Netflix debuted the kind of the relaunch in the revamp of that 90s show. I go over my thoughts on that first season and kind of extra thoughts about Netflix and how maybe they handle sitcoms overall. And finally, the first 3 episodes of The Legends of Vox Machina came out on Friday, and I got a chance to watch each one of those 3 episodes, and I have my thoughts on that. And those are the 4 things I watched this week. So without further ado, let's just start off with The Last of Us episode 2. Now, for a show that I think was so strong with its pilot episode, this one kind of fell back a little bit for me. I thought the storyline between Tess, Ellie, and Joel was pretty predictable. They were obviously trying to take Ellie to the Fireflies kind of base holdup to where the Fireflies can take Ellie's out west. Obviously, we get revealed that Ellie believes that that the Fireflies at least believe that she is a key in developing a cure. And from that point, we're kind of going to go on with this adventure with them. You kind of get a landscape of what the infected creatures are. There's a really, really intense scene. I really liked it in the museum with what is called clickers from people I've been told in the game. Without spoiling too much, I thought that was decently well done. I think maybe they could have went a little bit harder or longer on that, maybe drawn out that scene a little bit more. I think how it ended and where it went was pretty predictable. I am looking forward to next week with Nick Offerman coming in. Still well acted overall. I think Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal, the actor who plays Joel. I think they're going to be standouts on this show. I think Tess did a decent job this episode with her storyline and where that may be going. Definitely tell me below and let me know if you're enjoying The Last of Us, if you're watching it. Subscribe if you're looking for more of that content. I'm putting out kind of my personal non-spoiler reviews the night of each episode. I'm going to be posting my thoughts each week here as I keep watching. Me and a bunch of family members are watching this together, so that's kind of how we're treating The Last of Us currently. But yeah, second episode was, like I said, perfectly fine, pretty predictable. I think it went by a lot quicker. One thing I will say is I enjoy the intros every week to the show and kind of how they're telling the backstory of how this all might have started. And I hope that continues throughout each of the episodes we have in season 1 here. But now let's go on to the thing that I thought was the biggest surprise for me this week, and that's going to be Sony's new film, Missing. Now, I'm somebody who didn't really watch the Searching movie, which is supposedly in the same format. It's using the web type format here where you kind of click all the different apps, like it's a MacBook paired up with sometimes it's paired up with a Apple Watch, obviously paired up with an iPhone. You get a lot of conversations, a lot of video calls, that type of a way. This movie was honestly really enjoyable. I do think that you have to just take away some like belief and real you gotta come back and take back some of that real world belief that you have to give some disbelief for this story to land maybe for you personally. But I think the intense elements were highly there. It was definitely a lot of twists in it. It went a lot of different ways. You think you have answers and you think you might be solving it, but the movie does a great job of kind of throwing a curveball, but a curveball that makes sense, a curveball that is interesting, a curveball that leads to more questions. Story Reed carries the this movie as the daughter who has lost whose mom is missing from her trip, and she does a great job kind of carrying this movie as she's the really only person that is acting in this movie mostly. I think there's a couple side characters that I really enjoy. Javi, a local Colombian that helps Storm Reed's character. Again, Storm Reed's character June, again, I think stole a lot of his scenes. Was a great supporting character. This movie was made on a very small budget. I think the one thing I think a lot of the editing works really, really well for being able to tell what type of movie this is. If you like the Modern Family episode where everything is from Claire's laptop when she's traveling or something like that, this is very much in that same vein, but over a hour and a half to 2 hours. Very intense. I loved this. I really did like this movie a lot. I said it was the best thing I've seen in January so far. And coming a few days after that, I have to agree. That's not a slight on things like Plane and Megan, but I just definitely think Missing here just told a really good story. I think it was really well acted. I thought it was very innovative and very unique. And I like when I see filmmakers and producers push the boundaries of kind of what makes a movie and a TV show into something different. And even though maybe I didn't fully love the whole experience being on a laptop in that type of a world, I do appreciate the use of it as a medium in an interesting way of telling a story and maybe keeping things cheap. It did pretty well at the box office. It's one that I recommend people go see in theaters. I think you'll be happily surprised. There's not much out there right now besides, say, Plane and Megan and Avatar: The Way of Water. I guess Puss in Boots was also still in theaters, The Last Wish. But Missing, for me, I think this would be the big surprise. And I think if you go out and you see it, I think you'll really enjoy this movie. And it's something that I really enjoyed coming out of, and I can't recommend it enough to people that I know out and about per se. I don't want to get into any more with the spoilers because I think this is a movie that can be spoiled, and you don't want to be spoiled. I think this, the story still hits it if you probably know what happens or doesn't happen, but not knowing what happens made it a great experience for me in the theater. I think a lot of other people felt the same way coming out, but that was the one movie I got to go see in theaters this week. Next up is going to be the return and the reboot of a very popular sitcom from the early 2000s and late 90s, and that 90s show. This takes the characters, some of the characters' kids, and puts them into a similar world that they were in that 70s show. Obviously, you have the two grandparents coming back. The main character is going to be Eric and Donna's daughter. They are, she kind of wants to stay with her grandparents for the summer, kind of want to get out of the shadow of her parents, and it allows her to experience and make a friend group and kind of grow in different ways as a young teenager that maybe she wouldn't have had in other places. Now, this was a show I kind of enjoyed in part. I did watch it all the way through. I wanted to give it the good old try before I come in here and critique and give different things. But I generally thought that this is the thing with Netflix as a whole. What makes shows like That 70s Show, The Office, How I Met Your Mother, Seinfeld, Friends, Big Bang Theory, what makes these sitcoms kind of work, especially in the beginning, is when they're kind of given time for you to kind of grow the characters and not push forward too many storylines off the top. And I think that's one thing that with the Netflix only having 8 to 10 episodes really hurts a show like this, is that you're trying to force a whole almost 15 to 20 episode season of story into a smaller format, and it kind of causes you to move way too quickly with characters here and there. For me, the standout on the show was Ozzy. I thought he was given the best material. He definitely, I think for me, gave the best lines, and I love his reaction. He was kind of the meta commentary on the show. But I definitely think this is a show that would work better if it was a 14 to 16 episode season. If maybe it was split out, I think having this, they definitely made this show bingeable. They really tried to end every episode on a cliffhanger that would make you go to another episode. I personally, when it comes to sitcoms, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think that again, it tried to make it in one long narrative story, and I think that can work fine. But when it's 25 to 30 minutes per episode, it can be rough to get that type of story in there and move on to the next one. And try to create this overarching plot instead of just focusing on what's this episode about and what are the friend group, what is the adults doing this episode. I definitely think in the middle was when it was the strongest. I You do get some cameos here by all of the cast besides Hyde for obvious reasons. Danny Masterson is going through legal trouble at the moment, and the show does not want to include him in any way, shape, or form. He's not even mentioned in the show at all, Hyde. Um, but all the characters kind of come in naturally, per se. I kind of wish maybe we had more of the adults, especially the adults that were in the town. It felt like they should maybe be more involved. And I know they're bigger names like Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, but we got a lot of Fez. Fez wasn't not in every episode, but I think we got a lot of Fez, and I think his relationship with the grandparents, and with Red, I think worked really well with the show. I kind of wish we can get that more with all the other adults as we move on to other seasons. I imagine they're going to make another season of this. I think this will be a big hit. I think if you're a fan of that 70s show, you're going to like it overall. But my big thing coming out of this is Netflix. You got to either make these have longer seasons or release them weekly. I know Netflix likes to throw everything out and so people can binge, but I think a show like this, a sitcom, having something that somebody can come down to once a week for 30 minutes and know they're going to have a fun little laugh. I think that would help this show a lot because there isn't as much there to binge it and to feel like, ooh, I'm grasping on. I want to know what's going to happen with the story. But I would come back and that 90s show, it's Thursday night. It just debuted today. I'll put that on while I'm eating dinner. It's enjoyable. It passes time a little bit. I like the characters. I think the story as the season went on, the kids started to grow together more. I think if you would have had the longer season, those chemistries would have been a lot better. But I think going into season 2, I'm hoping that chemistry really breeds out in the character and the writing, and we get a really good hold of what the show is going to be. I think when it comes to redos and spin-offs, this is kind of like a Fuller House. And I think Fuller House suffered from the same issue to where it didn't have enough episodes to be in a season. But I think where Fuller House went a little too hard on the zany and crazy and the more kid-focused style storying, this one stays pretty true to that 70s show. And I think, there are parts that may feel for kids, but I think it's something adults can enjoy too a lot. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It was passable. I'd give it like a C plus, B minus on my score sales, my score rating per se. If you were a fan of that 70s show, if you're looking for something to kind of put on when you're at dinner or lunch every now and then, that's going to be kind of passing by. I think that 90s show is perfect for that. It could have been a whole lot worse, but I think when it handled itself decently well, given the fact that it was only 8 to 10 episodes all at once, and it was a brand new cast with a lot of brand new actors. So we'll see where this goes in season 2. Hopefully Netflix, like I said, please give us more episodes. Let it breathe more. Make it like a weekly release. I would love it if it was like this was just like something where I could look forward to week. It's a simple little show. I know you can say, well, Josh, you can do that too if it all comes out at once, but you let other people binge. That is true there, but I think the way they really try to make this season feel like a binge, where every episode left with like a cliffhanger of wondering what's next, I definitely feel that. I don't know. I kind of wish I didn't have to feel like I have to binge it to get to the next episode. And that's just my personal opinion. If you have different thoughts about that 90s show, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what people think. And if you're somebody who watched that 70s show a lot, what did you think of the show? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'm interested to hear that below. Now, finally, let's wrap up with the first 3 episodes of the Critical Role adaptation, a season 2 debut of The Legend of Vox Machina. Now, this is an animated series on Netflix. It originally came from a Kickstarter. Critical Role is well known here on YouTube as a D&D campaign show, a weekly show where they basically a cast of voice actors and friends get together and they really play out D&D and they really develop these stories, these characters. They feel very real. Has a very big following online. And during a Kickstarter that they made enough money to develop at least the season one of their first campaign with the crew called Vox Machina. Season one, something I did enjoy, but I felt like we didn't get enough character development throughout the whole season. It felt like we were rushing to things. It felt very D&D like, adult humor that didn't hit here and there per se. But at the end of the season, I was like, you know what, this has potential. I look forward to what's coming up next. I think that as the characters and you get to know them better, this is something that I think you can really enjoy moving forward. And I think with season two, I have similar issues with things. I think the story, the first episode, if you weren't really sure, who jumping in, who these characters were, if you had that hiatus, I didn't do the best job of reestablishing them. I think some of them get lost in that first episode overall. Episode two is where you really get to kind of ground yourself back up with the characters. Grog and Vex are probably my two favorites of the season so far. Vex up there as well. Percy, I felt like he had a strong end of last season, but he kind of fell a little bit behind in these first three episodes. The episodes after the first one were only 20 minutes long, and I don't think that's enough time to tell the deep type of story that you're getting with these D&D style campaigns. The character development there is kind of lacking in different areas. I think if you're a fan of Critical Role, you're probably loving the show. You're probably loving these first three episodes. I enjoyed them overall. I'll keep watching, and they'll probably show back up in this YouTube video every week when we get, I think, at least one episode every week. I don't know if they're doing one or they're following the Arcane style of 3 episodes a week. You definitely got left off with an interesting cliffhanger. I can't go into what actually happened with that. I'm interested to see if that is a permanent type cliffhanger ending, or if there's going to be some D&D stuff that works around that. But again, I think the animation here too, I think, again, I said this in my short review overall, is I felt the animation style felt really choppy this time. Like I said, maybe they should have taken that 1.5 years. I know it's coming out basically the same time as it did last year for season one. I wonder if it would have been better to let this breathe 6 or so months. Maybe try to lengthen up these episodes a bit with animation and make the animation a little bit crisper. I feel like a lot of times the facial animation, you don't get any emotions off the faces, and that might just be my personal preference, but it definitely hinders me when watching the show. A lot of time I get stuck on the fact, I'm like, is it their mouths just be like, and that bothers me a bit here and there, but it's not the biggest deal overall. But it's something that I've noticed. But again, I'm going to check out the next few episodes. I'm going to see if it keeps me involved like it did in season one. If you are somebody who likes those type of fantasy animated styles, check it out, Amazon Prime. The first season was there, decently well done. First 3 episodes of season 2 dropped this week. Again, decently well done. And that's the stuff that I watched this week. We'll have to see. I'll put out a short later this week about what's coming out this week. It's kind of slow. You have the NFL playoffs going on. Nobody's trying to throw that many big things out there. Again, if you are looking to go to the movies, check out Missing. Let me know if you're watching Last of Us. Let me know if there's any other shows or anything else that you're watching that you want me to check out. Put that all in the comments below. Subscribe if you like this type of content. Subscribe if you like the short reviews that I put out for movies and TV shows. I notice about 75 to 80% of my viewers of those shorts are not subscribers. So, hey, subscribe it if you are liking it. Just let me know. I'm just trying to build this channel out and see where it goes. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you back here next week in the last week of January, and we'll see what I watch next week. And I'll see you then. Bye.